ready for a change. Maybe they think that they don't understand what's shifted in the last few months that made you want this change now. What was different now than then? What they know is what's frozen in time from the stories and things that they've seen. Your your truth and your situation keeps moving. And what they see is based on what they want to be true. They need you to stay close to them. They need you to see all the risk of you moving. They need you to stay in whatever relationship works for them. So they downplay all the problems. They need you to keep maybe that job, maybe that relationship. They emphasize all the benefits from it. They see it as filtered through their own needs and own fears and their agenda only. And none of this is conscious. They're not malicious or trying to harm you. None of this is done with malice intent. It's just human. We're human. They're human. But it means their opinion is not objective. It's not complete. It's not the truth. It's based on fractional information and fractional information of your truth. Now, here's the question you need to ask yourself. Whose incomplete picture matters more, yours or theirs? Because both of yours and their experiences are incomplete. Both are filtered through emotions, proximity, and bias. Both are partial. The difference is that yours is based on living your experience, and theirs is based on hearing or observing it. Yours includes all the context that they don't have. Theirs includes maybe some assumptions, certainly their feelings and experiences about the context, and it includes what they're missing, what they're filling in. Yours has to account for the actual consequences. Yours might be practical, logical. You're the one living with the truth, your truth. They're observing a piece of it and calling it the whole truth. And when you question your choice, they might give you their opinion. They may tell you what you should do, what you need to do. Remember, they're not seeing it as you and what you're seeing. They're seeing what you show them. They're hearing what you told them, and they're interpreting it through their own filter, through their own lens, and they're handing it with advice and opinions like they have a full picture. And they don't. Nobody does. The difference is the closer to the truth, then you are closer to the truth than they are. You're the one who has to live with whatever decision or whatever path you choose every day. That's why your truth matters most than what anybody else can see from the outside. Now, let me talk about the myth of objectivity, because someone's going to say, well, if I'm too close to it, can I really see things clearly? Shouldn't I listen to people from the outside? Sure, you're asking great questions, and they're asking great questions of you too. They're helping you think through. They're pointing out things that you might not have considered. Perspective. That's what they can give you, is perspective. And perspective can be valuable. But opinions, they're only based on partial information. And that's not the same. Opinions are not the same as perspective. Perspective says, have you thought about this angle? Opinion says, you're doing it wrong. Perspective says, and asks questions, and opinions try to give answers. Perspectives help you see your blind spots, help you probe and think at things differently. Opinions tell you what you should do, what you need to do. If someone's giving you a perspective, pointing out something you haven't considered or asking questions that make you think longer or in a different way, listen to them. But if someone's giving you an opinion based on little bit of information, the 10% that they see or that you've told them, they're telling you perhaps what you should do, what you need to do, what you have to live like, from not the whole story. and you can gracefully ignore it. That difference matters. And sometimes a person with the most limited view of your situation can give you the most valuable perspective because they're not invested. They're not close enough to have an agenda. They're not operating from fear or need. They can be a therapist, a coach, someone who understands the difference between perspective and opinions, or someone that acknowledges that they don't live your life but can respect it. They see one piece clearly without all the emotional weight that you've been carrying. And sometimes that piece offers a lot of information for you. It doesn't mean they know better, certainly don't know better than you in your situation. It means they're seeing something from a different angle. And different angles can be very useful. They bring a different weight. They let you consider things differently, decide if things should be done differently, anything. Then you make your choice from your truth, not theirs, not their opinion. Now, let me talk about something no one warns you about. The more you share with the more people you share, the more opinions you get. And the more opinions you get, the harder it is to hear your own truth. You tell 5 people your situation, each of them love you and are concerned and want to help. Everybody wants to help. Each of them give you advice, opinions based on what they can see and what they heard. Now you've got 5 different opinions based on 5 different incomplete pictures. And instead of being clearer, you're probably more confused because now you're trying to reconcile everyone else's partial view and certainly their opinions about your life. They're trying to make a decision that accounts for what everybody else wants. They're trying to be helpful, but they don't have all the data points. It's important to know what your mom thinks, excuse me, or your parents, what your friend thinks, what your partner thinks, your boss thinks, your coworker thinks. And you lose track of what you think if you gather that information as fact. It's their opinions based on partial information. Your truth gets buried under everyone else's partial views. And now you're making a decision on everybody else's incomplete picture of how you need to live your own life. It sounds exhausting, and it is. This is how capable people end up paralyzed, not because they can't make decisions, but because they're drowning in everybody else's opinions based on little facts, lots of stories, and maybe a little bit of venting. And here's what you need to do instead: get selective about who you talk to. Don't poll everybody. Don't ask for everyone's input or opinions. Don't share your situation with everyone you meet. And everyone who asks, how are you doing? You don't have to tell them everything. You talk to 1, maybe 2 people, those people who you trust and you trust their judgment, people you know well enough to have more than the 10% of the story, people who ask questions instead of giving answers, people who help instead of telling you what to think. Everyone else, they don't need to know everything. They don't, frankly, need to know anything. And you certainly don't need to know their opinion, because the more people that get involved, the further you get away from yourself, from your own truth. And this one might be hard too. What do you do when the person questioning you is, or giving you the strongest or loudest opinion, is someone you really love, someone whose opinion you think matters the most, more than your own? First, remember, they love you, they're concerned, and they're trying to help. They're also operating with incomplete information. You can appreciate their concern without changing your decision. You can love them, disagree with them, disappoint them, you can value their input and still choose differently. What they can see shouldn't override your fuller truth. Second, you don't have to explain everything to make them understand. Even if you tried and you're still filtering things out, you're still giving them just data points through your own experience that they cannot feel. They can say that they understand the whole picture, but unless they're in it every day at that exact moment, they don't understand it. You can say, I know this doesn't make sense to you based on what you're seeing. I'm seeing more than I can explain, and I need you to trust me on this. And then just stop talking. You don't need to defend, to justify, to over explain, or to build a case. You made a decision based on your truth, and it can be uncomfortable for people. Based on what they can see, both can be true at the same time. You can let them be uncomfortable, and you can experience and let them experience their discomfort with your choice. It's not your responsibility for their emotions. They're allowed to worry. They're allowed to disagree. They're allowed to think that you're making a wrong turn. And you're allowed to move forward anyway. Because here's the thing, if you wait for everyone to understand everything before you act, you'll never act. Understanding requires context, feelings of the situation when it occurs, and no one will ever have that. They can't have that. You can't give them that, and they don't need it, quite frankly. You need to trust yourself, and you need them to trust you. And when they don't understand, if they can't understand and trust you, their relationship with you is only based on what makes sense for them, to them, not what makes sense to you. That's not a relationship that's based on loving and trusting someone else. It can sense and seem like control. Now, the people closest to you, because they have been the most probably distorted and felt your feelings or heard your feelings the closest, they get confused the quickest, not because they don't love you, because they need something from you. They want you to stay where you are because it might serve them better. Your parents certainly want you to stay safe more than they maybe need you to be fulfilled with your decisions. They see it as all risk and no potential, maybe as challenges versus opportunities. Your friend needs you or might need you to be more available to them, and you may see it as growth. They see it as ways that you're changing and disrupting the rhythm or the pattern that you had with them. And none of these ways, none of their terms around that is helpful to you. It can hurt you, their opinions, if they're strong enough or loud enough, if they get too close and override yours. Your partner needs stability more than maybe they need you to thrive or to grow. So they see all the uncertainty and none of the opportunity. None of this is conscious or malicious. They're just being human, and they care, and they're trying to help or fix things. And all of it is based on things that are filtered through what they see from you and what you don't need for yourself. This is why people who love you most often and sometimes give you the worst advice, not because they don't care, but because they care about the wrong thing. They care about maybe keeping you where you are, keeping you predictable. They need to care about you living your life. That's yours. And they aren't always compatible. Your changes, your growth, your new life or new desires might not be compatible with who they are or the relationship you had with them. So it can get mucky because you're going to make choices that people don't understand. And then one of two things usually happen. Either it works out in the short term or it works out in the long term. And when it works out, people will see you happy. People will quietly maybe even become annoyed because they didn't want you to choose that path and you chose it and you ended up happy and they were wrong. Some people will act like they supported you along the way, even though they didn't. Pay attention to who's who. It tells you everything about your relationships. When things get mucky, a lot of people and some people will support you. Some people will say, I told you so. And some people will use your struggles to prove that they were right. Again, pay attention because how people respond to you when you succeed and how they respond to you when you struggle, that's what matters too in relationships. That is important for you to observe and what they really want for you. The ones who celebrate your wins and support you through your losses or struggles, those are the ones we keep. The ones who need you to struggle harder, be louder, have more noise in your life, to feel failure, that's the relationship you want to create distance with them. And it's not going to be easy. When it doesn't work out, when people don't like your choices or the way that you're behaving isn't what they hope for or isn't what you should have listened to their opinions with, it means you made the best decision you could with the information you had, and it didn't work out the way you thought it did or could have, or maybe even wanted to, but maybe it worked out better. Maybe, just maybe, everything worked out better than you expected, anticipated, and they expected and anticipated. Ah, what a life. That's learning. That's being human. You can't predict, and we can't predict the future. My gosh, if we could, I'd buy a lottery ticket today. You can't know how everything will turn out. All you can do is make decisions based on your truth, not anybody else's opinions, no one else's opinions, because again, they're done with partial information. And you make your decisions and then you handle what comes next. And if someone wants to say, I told you so, let them. Their need to be right says more about them than about you. You've tried something and it didn't work out, or it didn't work out the way you wanted it to. So you pivot, you adjust. That's called living. That's not failure. Let me also talk about maybe some regret, because people love to use a threat of regret to control other people's choices or lives. You'll regret this if you don't listen to me. If you're wrong, you'll wish you had done it differently. I told you so. You're making a mistake you might not be able to undo. And here's the truth about regret. You might regret your choice. You might wish you had done it differently. You might look back and think, I should have listened, gathered more information, but you'll handle it. You'll know what you'll regret more is living an entire life according to other people's opinions, their partial views, making choices based on incomplete information from other people's perspectives and opinions. Incomplete pictures, never trusting yourself because someone else might have been right. That's a pretty deep regret that doesn't fade, it compounds. I'd rather regret my own mistakes than regret living someone else's version of my life. At least the mistakes or the turns that I make taught me something. Someone else's safe choices teach me nothing. Someone else's opinions based on little information teach me nothing, except maybe how to doubt myself. So make the choices that make sense and own it. Learn from it. Adjust if needed. Adapt if possible and when possible. And if someone wants to say, I told you so, when it doesn't work out, that's just their wanting to hear their own voice. Your responsibility is to live your truth to the best of your ability with all the information that you have. Remember, you have more information than anyone. No one else has your feelings, your experiences, and your thoughts doing your life. Even if you communicate articulately or effectively to people, they'll just gather facts and data and scrub it with their information and their opinions and their assumptions. And you want to make sure that everyone else's opinions are weighted in your decisions. They shouldn't be. No one else's opinions should matter more than yours. Yes, you should get their perspective on things, people you trust, and know that, and maybe have even been through your situation or a similar situation to yours. They can guide you and give you insight that you might not think of or questions you might not ask. But, in dealing with opinions going forward, when someone gives you their opinion about your life, ask yourself these three questions. How much of my truth, my life, my experience, and my feelings do they have? Very little, probably. They know what I see. Maybe it's 10%. Their opinion is worth 10% of your consideration. If they know maybe 50%, maybe you're listening a little more closely. But if they know only 5%, you can pretty much maybe just give a gentle nod and a graceful, yeah, internal, I'll ignore that. Match the weight of the information that you've given, which again cannot be 100% or your full information, your truth, on the amount of truth that they have. Be honest, most of the time, it's less than you think. What they're basing their truth on is their own experience, their own fear, and maybe their own need. Maybe it's outdated information, assumptions, or they're not clearly understanding the source that helps you decide what to do with their opinions. They're projecting things with the limited knowledge that they have within them. Sure, they're concerned, they care, they want to help, but they don't have all the information. And they're speaking from their own experience. You can consider whether their experience applies to your situation. If they're working with old information, you can recognize that what they know is outdated. If they're basing your today job on the job you were hired in for 7 years ago, or your relationship now based on who you were 25 years ago or 20 years ago, they're making assumptions. You can mentally and politely discount the parts that are based on their own experiences or views. It's limited. They don't have everything. And next, ask yourself, are you looking for a perspective or their permission? If you're looking for their perspective and you need help seeing the blind spots, the curves that you may not see up ahead, and different questions that may make you think differently, engage with their input. Ask more questions, probe within their perspective. Let's see where it takes you. But if you're seeking someone's permission or you're looking at their opinion as a level of permission or validation to do what you already know needs to be done, wait, let's stop asking. You don't need anyone's permission. And those opinions, again, are just based on their limited data points and limited views. What you need is your own permission. And these three questions will help you give in someone's opinion equal weight. They will help you sort the signals from the noise. They will help you decide what level of percentage or weight you want to give every person's opinion or perspective to you, to take it in as a data point yourself. Is it valuable? Is it thoughtful? Is it necessary? Important? Is it kind? Now, sometimes it can be all of those. Keep probing if it is. And remember, everybody is performing and helping with partial information. They're all operating, and we all operating on other people's lives with partial information. You don't have the complete picture, and they never will. You don't have the complete picture because you're too close to the situation. You're emotionally invested and you're blinded by your own life. You're too close to get a clearer view, to see everything. This is why some people's perspectives can be more valuable, and certainly more valuable than anyone's opinion. Someone asks you good questions and can help you see what you're missing, and someone can point to angles or things that you might not have thought of or considered. It can sharpen your thinking. Perspective asks, have you considered how this affects the next thing? Opinion declares, you should do this. Perspective explores, what happens if you do this? When should this occur? Opinions describe, you need to avoid this. I wouldn't choose that. Perspective helps you think. Opinions tells you what to think. So welcome perspective. It makes your truth more complete. And often, more often than we do, ignore opinions, everyone's opinions, because someone else's incomplete view is not full of answers. They don't have the answers you're looking for. Let me also talk about validation, because it's where people often go to seek validation. You make a choice and then you immediately start looking for validation. You check for comments, you ask for friends, you pull family members. What you're doing is checking your truth against everybody else's partial views. And when they don't align, you may panic. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe they see something I don't. Maybe I should reconsider. Please stop doing this. You're comparing your full context of information, experiences, and feelings to fragments and wondering why they don't match. They don't match because they can't match. They don't have what you have. You have more data and more information. If you needed validation, validate it yourself. Ask yourself, did I make the choice with all the information I had at the time? Did I consider everything I had at the time? If yes, then you're good. Did I consider the consequences to the best of my ability at the time? If yes, then you're good. Am I prepared to handle whatever comes next? If yes, then you're good. You don't need anyone else's sign off on your life or your choice. You made it with your truth, and that's enough. So, you have to think about it. Sure, we want to please people. We want our parents' approval or validation, our partners' thumbs up or green light to do something, our kids and our neighbors. And it seems silly that we seek everyone's opinion for things we already know and already feel and we already can validate for ourselves. People's opinions, and this is powerful, are based on partial information. They're based on what they see when we go to restaurants, what image we project and we want them to see. They're based on things that we told them or conversations they overhear, on body language at that one specific time. They can't be based on everything. They don't know everything. You know everything, and that's your truth. Their opinions are just their opinions, and you don't need it. And so I leave you with a couple of thoughts. Yes, it's important to try to gather people's perspective on things. It's helpful to seek advice from limited people, not all. We don't need to share everything with everyone. It's important to want to do the best thing for ourselves, to choose a decision that we can make right for us. And we don't need to seek opinions of everyone else's. And when they offer up, we can politely listen. We can put it in our data bank ourselves and say, that's just something I needed to hear and thank them for, but it's not something I need to move forward with. So you have to understand that this has to be about you. So when someone questions your choice, you don't need to convince them of things. You don't need to explain until they agree. You don't need to convince anyone of anything. You don't need a consensus. You can say, I understand. I appreciate your opinion. And I understand that it doesn't make sense of where I'm heading in my life. And it makes sense to me. I need you to trust me on this. And then you just stop talking. Their comfort or discomfort is their choice. And you don't need to help them with either one of those. It's their feelings, and their feelings are not your responsibility. Their understanding is not necessary. Their approval is not your goal. You're informing them, you're not asking for permission. So stop giving people information that they don't need, that they don't want, and you don't want their opinions. If you don't want anybody's decision on your job or situation, don't tell them. If you don't want your friend's advice on something, then don't share with them. You're in control of what you share. And once you share it, you've invited input and you've invited opinions. So share selectively. Share with people who ask great questions. Share with people who can handle your truth without needing to fix it. Share with people who respect your judgment. Everyone else gets the highlight reel. They don't need the full story. You don't need their opinion on it. It's not true, and their opinions aren't valid. This is being wise about what you take into your own inner circle, into your own life. So when you're drowning with other people's opinion, when everyone has a thought or advice or something that you should do and it makes you second guess everything, come back to this question. Who wakes up in the morning in my life? Who deals with the consequences and the decisions that I have to make? Who looks back at these choices? Only you do, not them, not anyone outside of your life. You. And this is your life, not theirs. You can't do it over. You can't live it again. So make the choices that make sense to you, your truth. You have access to your truth based on what you know, your experiences. Everyone else's commentary. And the most commentary is based on partial information, data points that you select to give them, and what they see, limited views. So it's incomplete. Their opinions are based on incomplete information. Live your life with your truth. Let me also address something that your truth will change. What's good for you today might not be good for you tomorrow or in 6 months. You learn things, you change circumstances, things will shift, you'll grow. And when your truth changes, you're allowed to change your choice. You don't have to commit to every decision forever. You don't have to defend why you're pivoting. You don't have to explain why you made sense to you 20 years ago or 2 days ago. It doesn't have to make sense now. Your truth has evolved. You've evolved. Your choices have evolved. End of story. And the people that gave your opinions based on old situations, they probably have new opinions based on your new situations. So again, go through the same cycle. How much information do they have? Not all of it. What's it based on? Their opinions. So I appreciate your time today. I want to thank you for listening, and I'll see you next time. Until then, keep chasing your purpose.